Today on the show, I moved house and it was painful. I've changed my mind on the Barbie movie. I actually think it's going to be a huge success. Plus, I saw Neil Degrasse Tyson live in Melbourne. I'm going to tell you everything I learnt from him that night. All that and more on 20th Century Boy, the only podcast that knows exactly when you're going to die. And it's right now. And to all the rest of you, let's get into it. Welcome to 20th Century Boy. My name is Radio Mike Brady, and this is the inside of my mind. Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome. We had a week off last week, obviously, because I moved, and my name is just Radio Mike, but every week on the show, as you know, if you're a long-term listener, if you're not, welcome to the show. But every week on the show, I have a new name. It's usually a Mike-themed pun. They get harder and harder each week, so I have been relying on the listeners to send them in. And that one, Radio Mike Brady, came in from long-time listener of the show, Radio Brody Henry. Welcome to the radio family, the collective group of listeners of this podcast. And Radio Mike Brady actually said, Radio Brody Henry actually said, Mike Brady is the Brady Bunch dad, in case you're too young. And I was like, is he? Because I know Mike Brady, and maybe a lot of Australians my age would know Mike Brady as the guy that sung the song Up There Kazali, which is a popular AFL song. So we were thinking of completely different Mike Bradys. Then I thought for a sec he was an American football player, but I'm pretty sure that's Tom Brady. Anyway, that's besides the point. Radio Brody Henry also said, keep up the good work. I love going on a big Radio Mike binge when I travel. Glad you're enjoying doing that. I'll be traveling soon. I need someone to binge. But yes, welcome back to 20th Century Boy, the conversations you wish you were having about the stuff that no one else cares about. My name is Radio Mike, of course, your host for today, a writer and producer from here in Melbourne, Australia, and podcaster, I guess. And boy, oh boy, it's good to be back. Had a week off because I moved house, and moving house is really painful. It's really painful, and it's expensive as well. So I will plug at the top here, patreon.com/Radio Mike. Join the Patreon every week. There is a bonus podcast, the Pat and Mike Show with me and producer Pat, which is a lot of fun. Only on the Patreon. Jump on, support the show. We're an independent show. All listener funded, all self-funded. So, you know, all of the stuff you see from this podcast is done by me and or Pat. And we don't have a big team helping us, but we still manage to get a show out every week, except for last week, because, you know, I was moving and I had to take a week off the show. This was it's going to be a bit of just a conversational episode this week. This was my fifth or fourth move in 4 or 5 years. I've moved a lot, and this one should be one that I will settle into nicely. I don't think I'll be moving anytime soon, which is very, very good and very lucky. And, well, here's the thing. A lot happened during my move, and it always does. I've got a lot of stuff, and anyone who's moved knows how stressful it is. And generally, you know, I've got a good relationship with my parents, the two Tonys, but every time I move, I'm always like to my parents, I'm just going to pay movers to do it, because it's a lot of effort to move, particularly the heavy stuff, you know, couch, bed, TV, fridge, washing machine, desk, all my computers and stuff. And every time my dad's like, no, we'll do it ourselves. My dad is one of those dads who he won't pay someone to do something that he can do himself. Like, he would never pay a mover because he can move stuff himself. He's got a big Toyota Kluger. It's like, we'll just put everything in the Kluger. We'll just do it ourselves. And, like, you know, and I always try to explain to my dad that the trade-off, my dad doesn't seem to ever understand that the trade-off is time and money, right? Like, okay, you can lose money by paying a mover, but you gain time and, like, you keep energy, right? Whereas you can do it yourself, save money, but you lose the time because you have to do all the manual labor. Anyway, whatever. Really uppy in this place, still in Richmond, closer to Swan Street for those who know sort of the Richmond geography, but very close to my old place. This place is actually quite a bit bigger, and I am going to be working on trying to just, add little things to the set. I've got a fireplace going in the set now, which I'm going to try and keep as a thing. So video viewers over on YouTube, enjoy that. But hanging out, I took a whole week off work, and hanging out with your parents, mum and dad moving, it gets painful. My parents are like great people, fantastic people, but just they're one of those old married couples who just bickers a lot, and just, sometimes I look at my parents and I even say to them, I cannot comprehend how your minds work in this world, because the way you two handle things, and I'm sure anyone with boomer parents, I reckon, will agree completely. Send in your funny parent stories or your stubborn parent stories, like my parents refusing to pay a mover and just like my dad's like nearly 60. My mum's, I won't say my mum's age, but my dad's nearly 60 and he's still, wants to do this manual labor. He's wearing away, and I say to mum and dad, I don't understand how your brains work. The way you two communicate, try to solve problems, it's just beyond me how it occurs in your minds, how anything you got. They're just always frustrated. If you've got a boomer parent, I know your parent is the same. They're just always frustrated about everything. They're always bickering, and I wanted to do this little segment. It's a new segment. It's probably only going to happen once, and it's called this. Stupid shit my parents said when I was moving house. Now, I know there are people who listen to this podcast who actually know me and my personal life, like friends from school and whatnot. So I love the idea that they know my parents and they are imagining my parents as I say this, because it's just remarkable. My mum, like, she like makes decisions without asking you. She's like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. We can put this in your apartment and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want any of that. And anyway, the main thing they're going on about is putting a table on the balcony. They want to buy a table to put on my balcony, which is very generous of them. And Claire was around for a lot of the move too, and she witnessed this, and we've been laughing about this all week. We just think it's hilarious. So, mum and dad are like pointing at the balcony, and mum's like, "Oh, Mike, you can get a table out there. You can eat out there. You can get a nice table." And then my dad goes, "Yeah, you can get you know what would be good? You could get like a square table. Get a square table out there." And I don't know if this is going to communicate as funny as it was in the moment, but I said to Claire, that's what my mum just said was like the funniest thing that's happened in my life in the past decade, which is a big call, but it was so funny and I can't stop laughing about it. So Dad goes, this build-up is definitely not going to be worth it. Dad goes, "Yeah, you could get a square table out there." And then Mum just go like in the most frustrated voice, like you've never seen a person more frustrated at the suggestion of getting a square table, a table with all equal sides, right? That's I guess what my dad meant. Get a square shaped table. Mum, in the most frustrated sense, just looks at Dad, rolls her eyes, and I'm going to do my best mum impression. She just goes, and my dad's name's Tony. She goes, Tony, you're obsessed with square. That's it. Like, just the fact that she said, you're Tony, you're obsessed with square. Like, not even, like, what does that mean? What does it mean? And I just looked at Mum and I just burst out laughing, and Claire started laughing, and I was just like, you're obsessed with square. Like, not even you're obsessed with squares or square tables, but you're obsessed. My dad just has the gumption to suggest a square table for the balcony, and Mum goes, "You're obsessed with square." And now me and Claire, like, every day just go, "You're obsessed with square." And I don't know. I want it to become a running gag on the show. I don't know if it's going to resonate with you guys, as it might be one of those you had to be there moments, but just like, I just looked at my mum and I was like, what? How are you so... Why is Dad suggesting a square table just the most bizarre, frustrating thing to the point where you're now saying he has an obsession with square. Just square. You, Tony, you are obsessed with square. As in, my dad just spends all his life just thinking about the shape square. Like, my dad sees, like, I don't know, my dad sees like an old TV, a square TV, and he's just like, oh, that's awesome. My dad sees something with 4 sides that are all equal, and he's just obsessed with it. And Mum's like, no, you're obsessed with square. As if my dad just can't stop bringing up squares or square. Oh, man. It was really funny. And then the whole rest of the move, we were all making square gags, like... You know, when we were moving my mattress, my dad was like, oh, the mattress is going to be really easy. And I was like, why? It's like, because it's a rectangle. Anyway, my dad's obsessed with square, guys. So, yeah, get around that. A couple more things, yeah. So the move's good. I'm really happy here. And been doing a lot of thinking. I might not bring up... oh God, what am I even saying? I'm thinking of, you know, having the podcast be a bit more conversational, but I'll talk about my thoughts moving forward. The podcast always grows and changes with where I'm at the time. So we'll see how I go. Wanted to do a quick one of these. All the write-ins that you sent in. All the write-ins, it's just code for mailbag, really. It's just when you guys send stuff in, which you can at any point, radiomikepod@gmail.com, Instagram radio.mike, comment on my TikToks, comment on YouTube, Radio Mike, wherever, you'll find me. At It's Radio Mike on Twitter, Radio Mike on Threads, which I'll talk about later. Got an email in from Radio JJ. Radio JJ said, ahoy, Radio Mike. Ahoy's not my thing, but I'll take it. Listened to the latest pod and wanted to comment on the superhero fatigue. From someone who reads comics pretty much every day for years, I do agree that it's starting to get oversaturated and a lot of the movies feel similar, with the exception being Across the Spider-Verse. I did talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse recently, and I agree. It was a phenomenal film. I think they need to stop trying to make each movie be bigger and better and just let it be its own smaller story like The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. Also hope the move went well. It did. Completely agree with that. I thought The Joker was a great film. Like, not a superhero film per se, but it's in that world, obviously, with Joker being part of the Batman mythos and the origin story of Joker. And that, what I think was good about that, and maybe serving against it, is the fact that they're making a sequel. But the thing about the Joker movie was that it was just an isolated movie. It's not part of a universe or a multiverse, really. It was just like, we're doing a Joker origin movie. It's not linked to the DC universe. It's not linked to any existing Batman. We're just doing a Joker movie. And I thought it was great. Like, I think that's a fantastic film that really highlights a lot of social issues, and Joaquin Phoenix is amazing. You know, probably the best depiction of Joker since Heath Ledger's Joker, in my opinion. I actually think Joaquin does a more unique, well, not a more unique take, but just a more, not believable, but a more grounded in reality. Like, I think Heath Ledger's Joker was very, like, theatrical, and I think it was great, but Joaquin Phoenix's really shows the origins of how someone could become that in real life, and the neglect for people with mental health issues and mental disorders and stuff. Totally agree with that. And then I'm trying to think of, there's not really any now that are just disconnected superhero stories. Like, they're all, part of, like, trying to make this larger cinematic universe. And I get it. I just think it's a bit convoluted. Thanks for the message. Radio Maple wrote in on Discord. Feel free to join the Discord. Just hit me up with a message and I'll send you a link. Just broke into the first episode of 2021. So Radio Maple's listening from the start, and he's 2 years behind. back on the podcast grind. Out of curiosity, does the Dave and Mike show stick around? It's a great segment. Also, couldn't agree more on this. It's absolutely ridiculous how early holidays are started. And he's listening to the episode about people celebrating Christmas in November, which, as you know, is a big no-no on this podcast, celebrating Christmas anytime before December. The Dave and Mike show was a segment on the show that did go for a while, but hasn't been on the show for a while. I do want to bring it back. I hopefully will bring it back soon, but Radio Maple's not going to hear this for probably 2 years, so I don't know. Deal with it, I guess. But no, thanks for the message, Maple. Again, I did a tweet this week about the podcast, and again, like, it feels like a lot of people, when coming to this podcast for the first time, are going back to season 1, the first season of the pod, which again, I have said many times, that was the first year. I was a different person then, and I hate that season. I know a lot of people fondly remember it. I don't know what I was doing. I was just making a jumble of a show, and I much prefer how the show is now. I know not everyone does, but so many people are going back to that first year of my podcast, and I hate it, and I want people to start listening like now with the current episodes. Like, if you're listening to my podcast for the first time, start with this year. Don't go back to the start. That's my opinion, because I'm ashamed of it. I'm embarrassed of the first episodes, and it feels like most people are going to the first year, which I hate. I would much rather people start listening now, because I'm a better podcaster, I'm a better performer, I'm a better speaker, I'm more confident, and I hate that first year. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. You do whatever you want. Thanks again for the message, Radio Maple. The other thing I've been doing this during the move as well, I was doing, because I have YouTube Premium, must be nice, that's not my thing, because I have YouTube Premium, I always sort of, you can listen to YouTube videos like a podcast, so like you can close the app. You can't close the YouTube app and keep listening, but with YouTube Premium you can. And decided while I was moving, I don't know if anyone else has this problem, or if it's just me. Am I the only person who does this? I decided that I was going to try and clear my YouTube Watch Later playlist. Because basically every time I'm on YouTube, I go to the home screen, and every morning I go to my subscriptions in the home screen, and if I see a video that looks interesting, I'll just put it in my Watch Later, so I know next time I'm watching YouTube, I'll watch those videos. And admittedly, what I've realized over the years is that you can add more videos than you can watch in a day. So it's like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. You might add 10 videos to your Watch Later a day, but you might only watch 2, so that's 10 steps forward, 8 steps back. 2 steps back? I don't know. 2 steps forward, 8 steps back. And decided, and I have like 300 videos in my Watch Later, and I was like, you know what, during the move, the whole time, I'm just going to be listening to these videos, because a lot of the stuff I listen to is just discussion, or, I don't really watch videos that like necessarily require you to watch. It's more just people speaking, which are the videos I like to watch on YouTube. And I was doing it, and it's amazing to me, like, first of all, some of the videos, not heaps of them, but some of them are just videos about things that were happening at the time. I put them in my Watch Later that are no longer relevant. So I'm just like, oh, delete that. Do not care about that anymore. Like that. Like, some gaming channel, and it's like, these are our predictions for Game of the Year 2021. And I'm like, oh, well, this is not relevant because it's done. That's 2 years ago. And yeah, but some videos are more timeless. And the funniest thing going back through them is just how far back I must have added some of these videos, because I'm going back and like, some of them are like, the video starts, and I watched one, there's this great YouTube channel called The Completionist, which is, a guy called Gerard, it's got millions of subscribers. I love it. Who just completes video games. So he just he plays video games, reviews them, but he completes them. Like, he does 100% of every secret thing you can find in the game, and then reviews it based on that experience. And I love his videos. And I opened up one of his videos that I added to my Watch Later, some review of a game that came out like 4 years ago. And he starts the video with just like, Hey guys, sorry if my voice is a little bit raspy today. I did actually get COVID-19, and I have been spending the first week, the past week, recovering, and my voice goes in and out of being good. So I've literally added these videos during COVID 3 years ago, and I've never watched them. And the multiple videos were people being like, "Hey, sorry guys, I've got COVID at the moment, so my voice sounds a bit off in this video. Sorry in advance. Let's get into it." But no, it's good fun. I love watching YouTube, and like I've got about 150 videos left in my watch later. I always say like one day I need to just not do anything and just sit there and watch these YouTube videos. But I don't think I'm ever going to clear my YouTube watch later playlist. Does anyone else do this, or is it just me? I genuinely feel like it's just me and people just sort of pick and choose, but I genuinely have like, what's the last video, like the oldest video in my watch later playlist right now? Let's find it. Just getting my YouTube app open. It's a video from 5 years ago. Hang on, no, that's date added. Yeah, video from 5 years ago, and it's just been sitting there. And I still there's one from 7 years ago. So 7 years ago in 2016, I added a video about Darth Maul from Star Wars to my YouTube watch later, and I haven't watched it. Darth Maul a Darth Maul like lore video. Anyway, that's the kind of shit I watch on YouTube. So yeah, I've been trying to clear that. Okay, high point of the week, we did take a quick break from moving because friend of the show, officially, Adam Spencer. Welcome to the RF. Adam Spencer, some of you, particularly in Australia, may know is like a comedian, mathematician, performer, presenter, and MC. Perhaps best known, maybe not best known, as host of Triple J Breakfast in like the early 2000s, late 90s, with Will Anderson, Adam and Will. And over the years, I've spoken a bit to Spence because, one, he's still good friends with Will Anderson, so he listens to a lot of Will Anderson's podcasts, which I've worked on and edited for like 5 years, and I've appeared on, particularly Two Guys, One Cup. But he's also a Hamish and Andy fan. He writes emails into Hamish and Andy and sometimes texts us and stuff. So he's a fan of the podcast world. Great guy. And, you know, sometimes he'll listen to Two Guys, One Cup and hear my bit on the show, which you can hear on the listener app, by the way. And he'll send me a text and just be like, oh, like, you know, funny bit, blah, blah, blah. And we'll just have a text exchange. Never actually met him. And while we were moving last week, he gave me a call and I was like, oh, g'day, how are you? And he said, hey, I'm hosting this conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson and I've got 4 free tickets. Would you like to come along? And I absolutely love Neil deGrasse Tyson. And funnily enough, I was listening to his podcast that day, Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast. And I was like, yes, I'd love to come. And I was like, great, I'll bring mum and dad and my brother. I'll bring the fam. We'll have a family outing, which we probably haven't done in many, many years. And yeah, so Spence was hosting this conversation at the Plannery here in Melbourne on South Bank, and I actually went to one from the same organisation earlier in the year, and I think I talked about it. It was Richard Dawkins, who's appeared like in conversations with Neil deGrasse Tyson before as well. And Neil deGrasse Tyson is amazing. I'll get into that a little bit more, but because I went with my parents, I did want to do another segment. And it might be the only time we do this segment as well. And it's called this. Stupid shit my parents said at the Neil deGrasse Tyson show. I really shouldn't be ragging on my parents because I love them, but it's just funny. This is just another funny story. And really, it's just what my mum said. I don't know, again, I don't know what goes through my mum's mind. Because this was just one of the most absurd moments of my life. Because Dad watches a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson's YouTube videos. My brother does. Mum isn't really into, like, I guess, science and stuff. Like, she's not really into that kind of thing. But she still wanted to come. She's like, yeah, it sounds fun. And, you know, we're in the Plannery, which is like this big theatre. And I guess it's important to note for this story that the Plannery is just a theatre. There's just one room theatre, a big room. There was 4,000 people at the event. And like Mum, so everyone there was there to see Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think that's the main point I'm trying to make. There was no other show on. And there was a bit of like hubbub with the seats. Like we didn't have a door on our tickets, maybe because they were like comp tickets from Spence. So we were like, oh, where do we go? And we went to talk to one of the ushers. And it seemed like there was general confusion amongst everyone. Maybe no one really knew where to go. So the usher was like, oh yeah, you've got to go downstairs and then you go down there. And we were like, yeah, cool. And so we realized like downstairs there was 2 doors, door 1 and door 2. And Dad was like, what does it say on our tickets? And I'm like, well, it doesn't say a door. And we were all just, me, my brother, my mum and Dad, we're just like looking around. There's heaps of people lining up. And then a guy, sort of a member of the public who's going to the show as well, youngish guy, like my age maybe, he like sort of sees that we're kind of quarreling and like not sure. And he goes, oh, which door are you? Are you door 1 or door 2? Like we're like door 1 go that way and door 2 go that way. Just a friendly, good Samaritan. And Mum just, again, this made me laugh almost as much as you're obsessed with Square. Mum, who, like, again, I don't know what goes through her mind, but she's like, to her credit, she's just endlessly polite and respectful and stuff. So this guy's like, oh, you guys door 1 or door 2? Because door 1's there, door 2's there. And Mum just like smiles and and keep in mind, we're going to see Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And Mum just looks at this guy, smiles and just goes, I really hope you guys find this as funny as I found it. Because me and my brother, anyway. So door 1, are you guys door 1 or door 2? Door 1's there, door 2's there. And Mum just looks at him and goes, smiles and goes, oh, I don't know, Dal, we're just here for Degrasse. No, we're here for Degrasse. And me and my brother just lose our shit. And I don't think the guy knew that we were her children. Like, he might have thought we were just 2 separate people just losing our shit at this woman and like laughing in her face. And then my brother goes, no, Mum, like everyone here is going to see Neil deGrasse Tyson. To which my mum thought he was just called Degrasse. Like, oh no, sorry, Dal, we're here for Degrasse. As if like there's like 10 different shows and everyone's going to different ones. Like, yeah, we're here for Degrasse. What are you here for? And then the guy starts laughing and seeing us laughing, and we're all cracking up. And Mum's like, what's his name? I don't know. We're just losing our shit at the absurdity of what's occurring. And then the guy like walks away sort of looking confused, and I yell out to him like, sorry, this is my mum, so I'm allowed to laugh about what she said. Because he was laughing as well. He thought it was fucking hilarious that this woman, he's asking what door is on your ticket, and she says, oh, no idea, Dal, we're here for Degrasse. and then the guy like starts glaring at me because I'm like, sorry, this is my mum. It's okay that we're laughing. And this guy starts glaring at me and walking up. I'm like, oh shit, he looks angry. What the hell? And then he's like, hang on. And I thought he was going to like be like, hey, respect your mum. Like, I didn't know what he was going to say, but he's like, hang on. You Radio Mike? And my dad was like, oh, like, and I was like, yeah, this is my mum. He's like, oh, hi. And it was like a funny moment. And then my dad, who just like seemingly like knows nothing about my life, like he texted me during the week. I posted it on Twitter for anyone who follows me there. And I was like, he texted me, he's like, hi Mike, do you do talkovers on the Hamish/Andy podcast? And I was like, yes, why? And he's like, oh, I'll read out the text because it's just like the most absurd text. What did he say? It's in the group chat, the family group chat. Do you do talkovers on Hamish/Andy podcast? And I go, yes. Oh, it seems to be gone. Anyway, it was just like, oh, coroner's son here in the office at work listens to Hamish/Andy, and I wondered if he might know you, but I said you had a stage name called Radio Mike, and I was like, yeah. And then he was like, how did that guy know you? And I was like, because he just knew me, I don't know, from Hamish and Andy or online or something. He's like, oh, what, do people just know you? And I'm like, sometimes. Anyway, my dad, like, because he doesn't have any social media. He's just like an old dude who like he's so out of touch with like with anything modern. He thinks the world is still like the 80s, and FYI, it's not. So anyway, the Neil deGrasse Tyson, so if you don't know Neil, he's like an astrologer, scientist, author, speaker, fantastic communicator, has really honed the craft of communicating big scientific topics to sort of to simplify them so people can understand them who aren't necessarily scientifically minded. And he's, that's a skill. To be able to communicate those big ideas so eloquently is a skill that he's definitely honed. Here's an example of just something. He actually said this quote at the show, but this is from like a Joe Rogan interview I saw. But he said this exact quote.
We went to the moon 9 times, 3 astronauts a pop. 27 astronauts have seen Earth from the moon. And that'll change you. Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell. I have a quote from him. Here it is. You develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, look at that, you son of a...
Fantastic show. And Adam Spencer hosted it here in Melbourne and did an incredible job of balancing like really great intellectual conversation with comedy as well. And Neil deGrasse Tyson was very receptive to the comedy. He's a really funny guy, and he went along with Adam, who's comedically minded, but also scientifically and mathematically minded. So I really, really appreciated the vibe. It was a really fun vibe, really fun conversation. And, if you've watched the show Cosmos: A Space Odyssey on Netflix, which Neil hosts, phenomenal show about the history of the universe and just phenomenal in all ways. That's sort of where I really started to like Neil. But, excuse me, some of the things he said were really mind-blowing to me that I hadn't actually considered before, and it was really, really fascinating. Particularly this one bit, which was this concept, because they were talking about extraterrestrial life and whatnot. And the first thing he said is that, like, we assume that if extraterrestrial life comes to Earth, then it is like we would assume that they would be trying to like kill us and take the land because they're trying to expand on livable planets. And the reason behind that is because if they're anything like us, humans, the aliens, if they're anything like us, we have done that every single time. Every single time a colony or a group has gone to a new land to expand, they have killed, enslaved, and, killed or enslaved the local people and claimed the land for their own. Every single time. Happens every single time. So when more advanced civilizations come to new land, the more advanced one always wins out. And he was saying, if they come, we assume if they're anything like us, that's what they'll be wanting to do. And he also said that they will see us having wars with each other over the fact that we believe in different gods and whatnot and have different religions. And they will see that we're killing each other because of different gods, and they'll be like, there's no intelligent life on Earth. And of course, if they make it to Earth, they will be infinitely more advanced than us. So that's the first thing. And that was like, oh yeah, that's so interesting. Like, it's really, really interesting. Like, it's highly unlikely that if extraterrestrial life came to Earth and there was so much more advanced than us, they'd just be like, yep, oh good, we'll just leave you there and do your thing. But the other thing he said that just did completely blow my mind was he talked about how humans and chimpanzees, and they're the closest sort of ancestral cousins to us, we share 99% DNA. So there's 1% DNA difference. And then he was like, okay, so we have 1% DNA difference to chimpanzees, but the smartest chimpanzee in the world cannot even begin to comprehend our most simple thoughts. Like, the smartest chimpanzee in the world can maybe stack some boxes to reach a banana that's too high up. But, like, they cannot comprehend our simplest thoughts. They can't comprehend, I'm going to go down the street and exchange money for a coffee and then go to the airport and fly to Sydney and go and meet my friend at the Sydney Opera House at 10:30 a.m. Like, a chimpanzee can't even begin to comprehend that, and they're 1% different in DNA to us. So then he was like, imagine an extraterrestrial species that is 1% above us, like 1% DNA difference. Like, basically, they are to us what we are to chimpanzees. So their simplest thoughts, we won't even be able to comprehend. Like, they're our smartest person, and he said, like, say it was Stephen Hawking before he died, who could do, like, quantum physics or quantum mathematics and whatever, algebra, trigonometry, whatever, calculus. He was like, they're like 3-year-olds would be able to do that and would learn it at kindergarten. So our smartest person couldn't even do what a 3-year-old 1% DNA shifted person could do. And I was just like, wow, that is so fascinating. It's like, we as a species might never be able to grasp some things that an extraterrestrial life could grasp. And I just thought that really stuck with me. It was really fascinating, and I enjoyed the whole speech. I want to get his book as well. It was fantastic. Okay. I've changed my tune on the Barbie movie. Got into some hot water, not really, with some of the listeners about how I was saying that I didn't think the Barbie movie had it in it to become like a high-grossing, successful movie. But boy, oh boy, I've changed my tune on that. I genuinely think the Barbie movie could be the biggest movie of the year. And here's why I've changed my mind. Because my original sort of skepticism before it was just the brand Barbie. Like, and I thought it was going to be a good film and I was really keen to see it, but I just wasn't sure if it would hit the way they wanted it to because it was Barbie. Like, honestly, that's why. And I think lots of people will see it, but I just don't think it's going to be as big as they want it to be with the cast they've got. But in the last just week or 2 weeks, the marketing campaign for this film is unbelievable. It is everywhere. And of course, maybe we're seeing it more in Australia because Margot Robbie's Australian, but the amount of marketing, the amount of brands partnering with the Barbie movie. Grilled, longtime enemy of this show, is doing a special Barbie burger. Like, everything is Barbie, everything is doing pink. Margot Robbie's everywhere. They are marketing the shit out of this film, and I'm seeing it. I reckon everyone is going to be intrigued by this movie and everyone's going to go see it. I really do believe that. I'm definitely seeing it. And the big one is Oppenheimer, which is the new Christopher Nolan movie, and everyone's saying, oh, what's going to win? But I'm telling you now, I have no doubt in my mind that Barbie will definitely beat Oppenheimer at the box office. I think they launch on the same day. And you know, that's a Nolan film. Of course, Dark Knight, Tenet, you know, all of Christopher Nolan's films are very arty, high concept, very, like, I haven't seen many of them, to be fair, but, you know, they're always Inception, they're always very big films. And I think Tenet, which I haven't seen, but as I understand, it's very confusing, as is Inception, I suppose. And they're just like, I think people would much rather go and see Barbie, a simple, don't get me wrong, not simple, but it's like comparatively to like Tenet or another Nolan film, it's like, I reckon it's an easier to grasp concept We'll have a bunch of social commentary, has some really hard-hitting names, you know, Margot Robbie, of course, and has a hell of a marketing campaign. As opposed to Oppenheimer, which, like, even from the name, I have no idea what that movie's about. And the average cinema goer is probably like, I have no idea. What is this about? What is Oppenheimer about? I think Barbie is going to be massive. I think it's going to be critically very well received. I think it's going to be a great film, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. I think it's going to be very, very fascinating. Threads launched this week, the alternative to Twitter by Meta from Instagram. Threads, I've been using it, and have I been enjoying it? Yes, I have. It's a cool little thing. A few people have pointed out Threads, and if you're not, I'm on it, and I'm just now, what I've realized is we didn't need Threads. Like, Meta needed Threads. Meta needed Threads. Mark Zuckerberg needed Threads. We didn't need it. The consumer didn't need it because we had Twitter. And Twitter was perfectly fine. Well, some people will say it wasn't, but Twitter, if you just want to write meandering thoughts on the internet, Twitter is the way to do that. Now we've got Threads. And honestly, I'm just posting anything I post in Twitter, I'm posting on Threads as well. That's what I'm doing. And I don't know. A lot of people have pointed out that, one, because it's linked to your Instagram account, you can't delete your Threads account once you've made an account. And two, it says in the, like, what it can access. It can access, like, all your phone's personal data. And it's, like, even, like, sensitive information stored on your phone. Very intriguing. And, of course, like, I think Instagram's just like, oh, like, Twitter's getting all this information from people. How do we do the same thing? And then they just launch Threads. And now everyone is giving away more information to Meta, which is how they make money. We always forget that we are the product on those things, but here we are. We're all doing it. We're all having a jolly good time doing our Threads, posting our thoughts on the internet. But not many of us think about the consequences. Hell, I don't, and I don't care. I don't know why I don't care. So much information about me is online. I can't keep track of it anymore. But yeah, add me on Threads, I guess, if you want one. I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I just think is really funny. Not necessarily super funny, but just interesting. The amount of, like, vitriol. I did a tweet, actually, and maybe a thread, about how it is just amazing to me how quickly any opinion expressed on the internet erupts into personal vitriol, abuse, insults, and just anger. And as someone who grew up with intense anxiety, and I genuinely think I've shaken most of my anxiety now. It's still there, but I don't get anxious about putting stuff online anymore. And friend of the show, Mikey D, who's, you may have heard on Mike Talks or my other pod, Harry Potter and the Boys. He always says to me, like, man, you must have the thickest skin seeing what people comment on your posts. And people genuinely on my TikTok and even Instagram and YouTube, like, post the most mean stuff about me. Just so mean. Like, personally insulting how I look, how I talk, everything about me, like my weight, apparently I have an overbite, which my parents will hate to hear because we paid so much. I did have one, and then we paid a dentist heaps of money to fix it. Anyway, it's not important, Mike. But it's amazing to me how fucking, like, insane and I don't know how shamelessly people comment just mean stuff, and you don't notice like all the likes and people who don't comment positive stuff, but people do comment negative stuff, and Mikey D was like, does it upset you? And I don't really even read the comments, so I don't know what's in them. But what I do find interesting, and again, just the anger that online creates, this anger of, like, I'm taking it out on you personally because you have this opinion about something. And it's not even like politics. It's literally like the one that I was looking at today is like me and Sam on Harry Potter and the Boys talking about Dragon Ball Z. And people are just like, you fucking... It's just amazing. It is incredible how personal it becomes. And I was thinking about it today because I've genuinely gotten to this point where I no longer at all just give a fuck. Like, I couldn't give a fuck. And if you've been listening to this pod for a while, you'll know the Man in the Arena poem. Where this came from is a few years ago, before COVID, I think, I was lucky enough to have breakfast with Hamish, and I was asking him for some advice, and I was like, I just sometimes feel scared to put myself out there because I'm worried about people judging me. And he said, you got to read this Man in the Arena thing by Theodore Roosevelt. And the whole premise, again, is like, basically, everyone can yell out shit to you and be, yell out what's wrong with you and what you're saying is wrong and how stupid you are and how stupid you look and how ugly you are and all this shit. But at the end of the day, you're the only man or woman in the arena doing it. And so what I've realized is if you're just some dickhead commenting on my TikTok or anything I do talking about how shit it is, I don't care. Because I'm doing it. And there are people like you right now listening, I assume, who enjoys listening to this pod. And that's all I care about. There are people who like this show. There are people who like listening to this podcast. And I like making it. And that's all that really matters to me about it. Like, I could not give a fuck about some dickhead kid or some dickhead who just thinks they're so good, but they're not putting themselves out there. And anytime someone like comments, especially stuff like, not funny, you guys aren't funny at all, you're not funny at all, I'm just like, well, why don't you do your comedy thing? Once you've done yours, then we can compare them. But if you haven't actually stepped into the arena, then there's no, like, I don't care. And I'm not like bulletproof. Like, sometimes they get to me, but most of the time if I see them, I just gloss over them. They just make me laugh that people are so angry online. Like, just leave it. It's remarkable to me. And what I've realized as well, and if I ever did, like, it'll never happen, but if I was ever like on a Willosophy podcast, this would be what I'd say. Because I would say that, like, what I've realized about life, and as I get older, I stay the same amount of cynical about life. I've always been quite apathetic about life. Like, not that I hate life, but I'm just like, I was raised religious and I was promised like the spoils of heaven and shit, and then I shook all that off and I'm like, fuck, it really is just a bunch of people pretending they know what they do. Like, it's just everyone's just pretending they know. We're all just these fucking animals and we're just like trying to all pretend we're good and shit like that, right? I'm quite cynical about that. I just don't give a fuck. And what I realized is, no matter what you do, and feel free to adopt this because I certainly have. No matter what you do, no matter what I do, people are going to talk shit about me. No matter what I do, people are going to talk shit. They're going to say I suck. They're going to say I'm bad. They're going to say that my content is bad. They're going to say that I'm ugly. Like, no matter what I do, people are going to talk shit about me. So then what I realize is you then have two choices. You have two choices, that's all. And this doesn't just apply to like content creators. It applies to just anything you're doing, anything in life, right? You have two choices. One, and remember, people are going to talk shit about you no matter what. Choice one, people talk shit about you for doing what you don't want to be doing and what you hate doing and you being unhappy. Choice two, people are talking shit about you about what you do want to be doing, what you love doing, and what you're happy doing. And then you just make the choice. And the choice is very clear. There's no there's no other answer to that question. And so it's like, and I remember being like in my late teens, early 20s, etc. And I was doing what I didn't want to be doing. I hated everything. I hated it all. Because I was so anxious and I didn't have the courage to do what I'm doing now. And I could feel people talking shit about me, not like in a mean-spirited way, but even like, I think my parents were like, what is this kid doing? Because I was just like, I didn't know what I wanted, and I was just wasting life like in the pursuit of pleasure, right? Momentary pleasure. And now I look back on that kid and I'm like, yeah, like people were talking shit about you when you were unhappy. Now you're happy, and I'm sure people still talk shit about me, but I don't care because I'm happy with myself and I'm happy with what I'm doing. And if I was still not doing what I'm doing now, if I was not doing this, everyone would be like, oh, that Mike guy, like he had potential, but he failed. He fucked it up. He didn't even try. And then they'd still be talking shit about me. At the end of the day, you know, I don't know. You just do what you love. And that's what I'm doing. And I still slump from time to time, but at the end of the day, that's my, you know, let's say this is the second half, you know, the second season 5.5 premiere, right? Because we had the week off. That's what I'm leading with. And I will always stick to that idea of life. Anyway, I've been rambling a little bit and the episode's been going long, so let's do this. The plug! Got a bit preachy there, but you know what? It's my podcast, so I don't care. I wanted to plug, again, Patreon. If you like the show, Pat and Mike show every Friday as well. We love doing it. It's like a 40-minute podcast, an extra podcast every week amongst everything else I do. Here is a little... And it's more like the silly stuff, you know? It's more silly, me and Pat back and forthing and talking about stupid shit we've done. Here's a little grab. I lit a match, and I was like, I wonder what would happen if I lit one match and then opened the matchbox and just lit another match.
You fucking idiot!
And
Did you do it over a sink?
No, I just did it in my bed. And
What?
the whole matchbox just exploded and caught fire. And I was like, fuck, and I had to like stamp it out. Imagine if the apartment had just caught fire and the fire alarm went off. The whole building had to evacuate. And then they're like, what happened? What's the source of the fire? And I'd be like, oh, so I took a match out. And I just wanted to see what would happen if I tried to light all the other matches. How stupid's that? Yes, that is very stupid, Mike, but I do stupid shit sometimes. Of course, Harry Potter and the Boys is back. Book 3 of my Harry Potter fan fictions that I wrote when I was 13. And boy, oh boy, it's really fun. I love that show so much. And, you know, got a little bit more space in this apartment, as I said. So, and I also got some plastic chairs. Me and Sam usually record it on like balcony lounge chairs. Oh, you're obsessed with square on the balcony. And it's not good for the video, so I actually bought some proper chairs, which I'm sitting on right now. But Sam was away last week, so Jackie Hatton, fan favourite for her 4th appearance on the show. Hilarious stuff.
Daily Prophet feels to me like closer to like a Sky News. Like it's like really right-wing for wizards.
Yeah, it actually kind of is. All of the articles in the book were like anti-Harry, like covering up that Voldemort's back. Like Voldemort was like global warming and the Daily Prophet was Sky News being like, it's not real. People die all the time. It's got nothing to do with Voldemort being back. Harry's a liar. Dumbledore's a liar. Wow. Yeah, really good fun on that show. Would love for you to, again, 2 Guys, 1 Cup on the Listener app. Every week I do a segment called Mic Check where I talk about my bigger year of footy. Again, I've promised this a few weeks. I might finally get to it this week where I will do for the Patreon supporters, I'm going to cut up all of my editions of that as a package. And I'm going to put a Pat and Mike episode out on the free feed so you guys can get a taste of it and hopefully convince you to subscribe because it's a lot of fun. But that's about it. Hit me up anytime just to chat. My name's been Radio Mike, and this has been The Inside of My Mind. I'll see you next week. It's fucking great to be back, and I'll chat to you then.